In today's video, we are looking at the best affordable alternative to the Tag Heuer Solargraph. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And I feel like within our watch enthusiast group, within our beautiful, incredible watch community, there's often fear, there's often an uneasiness around non-mechanical watches. I would actually go as far to say that I have been a little bit of a snob towards non-mechanical watches. I couldn't get on board with them. And it honestly took me a very long time to get on board with them. But I think the key change that happened, at least in my mind, was this watch, the Tag Heuer Aquaracer Solargraph. As I researched the Solargraph and as I understood more about the movement, that kind of pressure to only buy mechanical watches was lifted a little bit. I understood that Solargraph movements were actually pretty damn good. And I think this change didn't just happen with me. I think it happened with a lot of people. I think the Tag Heuer Solargraph in a lot of ways opened the door into that world for a lot of people. And since then, my scope has definitely broadened. I don't only go for automatic mechanical movements. I also allow quartz or Solargraph movements. Now, yes, it does probably help that the Tag Heuer Aquaracer is stunning. I love the teak dial, I love the sizing, I love the Aquaracer line, but the Solargraph Aquaracer does come in at about £2,200, which is quite expensive. And that, in my head, got the cogs turning. What happens if there was a watch that was just as banging, just as beautiful, but for 1/4 of the price? And that brought me to these watches. This right here is the new Tissot PRC 100 Solar. Now these watches come in a variety of different colors. You have a blue dial, a silver dial, a black dial with a PVD kind of case and bracelet, or you have a leather strap. So there's a couple of different variations to choose between when picking this model. Let's just cover the specs really quickly before I get into the detail of why these watches are just absolutely brilliant. So these watches come in at 39mm in diameter, which is a pretty perfect size for most watch enthusiasts. But I would say they do wear a slight bit smaller, and I think it's because of how close it sits to the wrist. So they come in at 9.22mm in thickness. So they are beautifully thin. But again, that is because of that Solargraph movement, which we'll move on to in a second. The lug width comes in at 20mm. It is water resistant to 100 meters. Comes in full 316L stainless steel and has scratch resistant sapphire crystal glass. The general look, feel, and aesthetic to the dials of these watches is quite simplified. It is quite subtle, but on closer inspection, and this is where one of the points that I fell in love with this watch, it is a little bit more complicated than you think. So if you take a really close look at the PRC's dial, you can actually see a honeycomb texture start to be visible, because it is quite hard to see. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. This texture is sitting just beneath the sapphire crystal glass, and these little tiny pods are actually solar cells that you're looking at. Now, these little cells actually transmit the energy to the movement via a elastomeric connector, which is just such a cool detail. To be looking at your watch and know you're looking at power cells is pretty awesome. Now, they do have a date window at the 3 o'clock on the right hand side. The case and bracelet to this watch is almost quite angled, but it's not PRX like. It's almost as if they took a hybrid between the Gentleman and the PRX and created this kind of 70s looking but also classy looking baby. It's kind of weird to say, but you guys will see what I mean. It is still angled, it is still futuristic, but it has a degree of pedigree. It has a degree of classiness around it. I do feel with the combination of the PRX vibes and the Tissot Gentleman vibes merged in, spliced into one watch, giving it more of a quirky feel, it would definitely go really well with the new Summit collection from Chisholm Hunter. Now, this is a gents jewellery collection that I actually designed myself over 2.5 years. It took so long, and I'm super, super excited with how it turned out. I just think it's the perfect add-on, the perfect extension to a watch. Now, I've always been a jewellery fan. I've always worn jewellery, and I just love the aesthetic of it. I love the way that it plays in the light. I love the photography aspect to jewellery, how it reflects and just looks and feels, especially when paired with a luxury watch. So if you want to take a look at the Summit collection, the new Summit collection, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk. That is chisholmhunter.co.uk. And as always, guys, thank you so much for the support. The bracelet on this watch has a butterfly clasp at the bottom, and it's thick, firm, and actually all round a pretty good bracelet. Now, it does have a quick release system on the kind of inside, so you just need to squeeze those two screws together, and then you can plug it off or put it back on, and it's super, super easy to use. Now, when you flip this watch round, you'll see a closed caseback, and that closed caseback actually conceals the Solargraph movement. The movement in this model is the ETA F06.615 movement. And this is able to provide 14 months of power reserve on a full charge. And it's not actually just the sun that can charge it, because I know that, for example, I live in Scotland. The sun never comes out in Scotland. That's why I'm so pasty white. But it's not just the sun that can charge it. For example, if you're in a room like I am now, you've got a light in front of me that's lighting me, my Tissot would still be charging. Now, Tissot have actually quoted a full day of charge based on 10 minutes of exposure. So a full day would be 10 minutes in the sun or 10 minutes in artificial quite bright light, which is pretty damn awesome. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the detail, we know that it has a Solargraph movement. We know that it has those little power pods on the dial in the honeycomb texture, which is awesome. We know that it has sapphire crystal glass, stainless steel. What's the price? It comes in at £450 on the bracelet. For what you're getting from this watch, that is actually a really good price. And actually, it's an interesting sidestep that Tissot are taking into a different niche, into the Solargraph niche. What I would predict to see in the next few years is rapid expansion in this area based on feedback from us as the watch community. Now, what I would like to see is a little bit more punchiness from this. Now, boring is often better, as I've said in the industry, but I feel like this is lacking a little bit of spice. With that said, for the first iteration of these watches, it's pretty dang impressive. And I honestly, after wearing this for around about 4 days, I was kind of taken. I really liked it. Would I buy it? Probably not at the moment, but I do think that they're on the right tracks, and through minor tweaks and minor adjustments, they will make the perfect Solargraph watch. Now, if you're looking at the TAG Heuer Aquaracer Solargraph but don't have £2,000 to spend, I do think that this is just one of the perfect alternatives. Let me know what you think in the comments though, because I'd love to hear your kind of thoughts on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, please hit that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, or my Instagram at HB Lifelens, or the podcast, the Into the Mind Podcast. And I'll see you guys real soon.